I look at a diagnosis as it defines our playground. I see a diagnosis as a reason to be happy. Like it's a positive thing, right? Because that means there's people who know, right? This is a thing that's been studied. We know more about what helps an ADHD person be successful than we do about what helps a neurotypical person be successful. So I was in a kitchen of a client. I was coaching their kid, and mom was like, I don't understand why he can't do his homework. And I said to her, well, it's like there's this wall of awful between him and his homework. And my brain split, like the ADHD brains do, right? And I was like,
totally.
Continued talking to her, but I was like, that's what did you just say? Like, there's something there.
Yeah.
I haven't had a lot of moments where that happened, but this time it did. We all have stuff that we've failed at or struggled with. You don't necessarily have to have failed at it, but struggled with so often that it even thinking about doing it is overwhelming. And it's just like, oh, I can't believe I have to do that again, right? That's the wall of awful that you're encountering.
All right. Hi, my name is 𝗵𝗲, and this is the Attention Different podcast. I'm a twice degree holding storyteller or story mom, professional story scientist. And today co-hosting with me is
Aaron Smith, and I'm the co-founder of Attention Different and licensed clinical therapist and ADHD coach at Potential Within Reach.
Alrighty. So tell me if this sounds familiar. You know exactly what you need to do. You've got the time to do it, but you still, for the life of you, cannot get started. It's not laziness or a character flaw. There's actually a name for this barrier, and our guest today calls it the wall of awful. Brendan Mahan has spent more than 2 decades working as a teacher, a school counselor, an interim school principal, and an ADHD coach. His new book, Overcoming the Wall of Awful, offers us a roadmap, teaches us why our brains build these emotional barriers, and most importantly, how we might actually climb over to the other side of the wall. If you've ever been stuck, ashamed of being stuck, and then stuck about being ashamed about being stuck, this one's for you. Brendan, welcome to the Attention Different podcast.
There's actually a sidebar in the book that is, what if I have a wall of awful for having a wall of awful? So you're not that far off. Yeah. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great. We're so excited to have you. I mean, for our listeners, Brendan is someone that Aaron and I know now for many years, and we all go back to the International ADHD Annual Conference, of which Brendan was formerly a board member of, still a board member of.
Yeah, I was on the Influencers and Advocates Committee for years and years and years, and before there were committees, I was on the bigger committee. And I resigned at the end of last year to focus on the book and kind of do that, because I didn't want to give short shrift to something as important as the conference.
Heck yeah. And speaking of the importance of the conference, that is where the three of us, I think, originally met. It is often the meeting ground for ADHD advocates, psychiatrists, psychologists, teachers, counselors, coaches, influencers,
parents,
anybody,
ADHD adults.
Parents, actual ADHD adults and children. It's the, let's call it the, I always want to say the Comic-Con. I always want to say the Comic-Con.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it feels very like ADHD fan, if you will, oriented. Yep. It's a place where we all get to gather, let hypervigilance and masking melt away, be ourselves, and kind of teach and learn from one another. And that's where we met Brendan.
Yeah.
In Texas, I think, right? Was that the first year we met?
That's right. Yeah. I think that's when we really tied the knot, if you will. That was in Dallas. Yeah. Which was already 5 years ago, I think. 3.
Something. Yeah, it's a while now. Time doesn't make any sense because I have ADHD, and also since COVID, like it just doesn't make any sense to me anymore. So,
hey, man, I lean on the flat circle quote.
Well, speaking of time, let's take us back to your diagnosis journey of getting that diagnosis of ADHD. When did that happen? How did that come about? And what was it like to have that language to describe yourself?
Yeah, I think I was in my 30s before I actually got for real diagnosed. And even that, like, I kind of diagnosed myself, and my doctor was like, okay, you know more than I do, because I was a teacher. And he was like, you must know what you're talking about. Have some meds. I'm not with that doctor anymore because that's not how that should work. But I knew kind of for a while, like when I was a kid, my mom, I think I was in middle school, and my mom was like, your teachers are saying they think you might have ADHD, but I don't know. And later on, she was like, we did have that conversation with your teachers, but we didn't want to give you the excuse. So we didn't do the diagnosis thing, because that was kind of the attitude in the 90s, right? Like that was the lens. And in college, I majored in psychology, at least initially. I graduated with a degree in creative writing, focusing on comic books, like all good ADHD people would.
Right.
But I started in psychology. And one of the things they tell you in the beginning of freshman year, if you're a psych major, is you're going to hear about a whole lot of mental health things in the course of this class or program or whatever. And you're going to think you have all of them for like a week. And that wasn't the case for me. I was like, nope, except ADHD. I was like, that one feels real. Like, I think that's me. But I had been told, like, you're probably wrong. And I was like, all right, cool. But every time it came up, I was like, that seems true.
Yeah, that's the Psych 101 type of warning that happens. Like, don't self-diagnose. Be careful.
Yeah.
Don't read into this.
And then when I taught, you have to fill in all kinds of rating scales depending on what the kid's being tested for. And the ADHD ones, I would be filling out a kid's and I'd be like, man, that seems like it's me. And that seems like it's me. And eventually
like
I would
the Connors or Vanderbilt or something. You'd have to teach your rating scales.
Whichever one they gave us. Mm-hmm. And I was like filling them in. I'd get a piece of paper and I'd be like checking off the kid. And on the piece of paper, I'd be checking off me and sort of like not exactly self-scoring because I didn't know how to score them at the time. I was trained in that since. I don't know if I can still do it. But invariably, I was like, that's a lot of checks on my piece of paper over here. So probably that's a thing that I have. So when I started struggling as a teacher and just follow through mostly, that was when I was like, I think I have this. And my doctor was like, okay, sure. And eventually I ended up seeing like a real mental health clinician. And they were like, yep, you understand this ADHD stuff at a level that people who don't have it typically can't unless they've been trained. So yeah, it was until I was in my 30s that I really got locked in. And then my career as a teacher kind of wrapped itself up. And the plan was either school guidance counseling or ADHD coaching. And so I kind of dabbled in ADHD coaching while getting a master's in school psych, or school counseling, and the rest is history. So. Well,
but real quick, let's go back to that moment where you got the diagnosis finally, in your 30s. What was that like for you? Was it kind of a aha moment? Was it a, oh no? Or was it like, hey, this makes sense? Like, what was it like? Can you describe that emotionally for you?
I'm a pretty even keel guy most of the time. So it was just sort of like, all right, like that seems true then. Cause it didn't, one, I didn't know enough about it for it to be jarring, to be like, oh my God, that means this. Like I knew sort of the stereotype, and I knew symptoms because I had done enough checklists, and that stuff all matched up with me. Right. Like I was like, yeah, that all makes sense. And then I started learning more about it. Like I was in the, Lori Dupar did a book called 365 Ways.
Oh yeah.
To live with ADHD or something, succeed with ADHD. I'm in 365 plus 1 ways to succeed with ADHD. So I'm in the second book of that. Like I've got 2 or 3 things in there. So that's how far back I go in doing this. And that was when I was first starting to figure all this out. And the person who really kind of let me know I could do this and help me understand ADHD at a level pretty quick was Alan Brown. He was as ADHD part of Crusher. ADD Crusher. As part of that Lori Dupar book, she did like a seminar thing and you got free videos from it and all that kind of like a summit sort of thing. And I watched Alan's video and was like, oh, wow, this is all really straightforward and easy to understand. It all rings true. And that's telling me 2 things. One, my communication style is allowed, because a lot of the ADHD stuff I had seen was like highfalutin doctors being all scientific and technical and like a boundary, right? Like, and I'm not talking about, oh man, the godfather of ADHD. I'm blanking.
Russell Barkley?
Russell Barkley. Thank you. Yeah. I'm
the
not talking about Barkley.
Godfather of ADHD. And pause there. Yeah. Okay. But because I'm not seeing the Godfather in the colloquial sense, I'm seeing the Godfather.
He's got a pinky ring and everything.
Yeah.
But I just didn't have that, like, I built that technical skill, but I don't have that technical style of communication. Like, it's just not my deal. So watching how Alan communicated made me go, oh, you can do this in a way that makes it accessible. and also helped me understand stuff pretty quick. So there's a lot of there's pieces of Alan Brown in what I do, and he and I have since become friends, and now there's stuff that I do that he uses. So we've sort of cross-pollinated. But yeah, when I first got the diagnosis, I was just like, all right, well, this is the thing I have to deal with. Right. And at the same time I was going, cause I was also in the midst of why am I failing as a teacher? How come I can't keep this job? Those sorts of things. And some of that was budget stuff. And some of that was, I was making mistakes. I had undiagnosed ADHD that wasn't treated and I wasn't doing anything with it. So I wasn't calling parents when I should, and grading was hard, and planning lessons as much as I should have wasn't always happening. And so for me, it was more an explanation than anything else, right? I look at a diagnosis as it defines our playground. I see a diagnosis as a reason to be happy. It's a positive thing, right? Because that means there's people who know, right? This is a thing that's been studied. We know more about what helps an ADHD person be successful than we do about what helps a neurotypical person be successful. Because we can eliminate a lot of stuff for ADHD people that we can't eliminate for neurotypical people. And that helps narrow the focus.
That's fascinating. That's a cool take. I want to circle back to that, but you just taught me that. This is a great segue. So you went from student to teacher to principal to counselor to coach. It sounds like a lot of career pivots.
I went teacher to to a guidance counselor sort of in training, to coach, or teacher to coach to guidance counselor in training, back to mental health clinician, back to coach, to principal, and coaching at the same time, and then stayed coach, and then podcaster and all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. So before podcaster and all that stuff, which I think still holds a through line, you might see this as a bunch of ping ponging or pendulum swinging, but in all of those, I see a pretty clear through line, right?
Yep.
What were you looking for across all of those roles that seemed to be pretty tightly packed into the lane of education?
Yeah, it's me becoming the person I needed. It's me helping people. My through line is nothing but helping people. It's helping people, and it's storytelling and communication. That's all of my themes in my life. And that's teaching, right? It doesn't matter if I'm teaching adults or kids. If I'm helping people and I'm communicating with them in a way that hopefully makes their lives better.
That tracks, honestly. Yeah, can relate. Hey, Stephen here. Sorry to interrupt. We just wanted to take a brief moment to tell you about this week's sponsor. At Attention Different, our mission is simple. Offer ADHD adults proven practical strategies for living a more balanced, fulfilled ADHD life. And that is why we are thrilled to offer our latest course, Thriving with Adult ADHD. While other courses might focus on the pain and struggle of being an adult with ADHD, and we do not want to minimize that, this course is designed around accessible, relevant, and applicable techniques that address the most common challenges facing ADHD adults. Inside Thriving with Adult ADHD, you will learn how to better understand your adult ADHD and gain clarity about how your brain works. Improve focus by using tools to cut through distractions and get things done. Learn to manage your energy for productivity without burnout. Thriving with Adult ADHD features 2 hours of on-demand video, 10 downloadable resources, lifetime access to the material, and a satisfaction guarantee. Go to attentiondifferent.com/thriving to sign up now. That's attentiondifferent.com/thriving to sign up now. Hey, thanks for the quick break. Now back to the interview.
Yeah, well, I think so many people, and this will bring us into this wall of awful concept, but I think so many people look at their life story and look at these setbacks or perceived failures as something to feel regretful and bad about. And I think with your story, you kind of are open and talk about how it's been difficult and it's been hard, and it wasn't a seamless transition from this thing to this. It took work, it took growth. And I think when we think of these walls that prevent us from doing things, it's like our story we tell ourselves, our life, that it's so important how we conceptualize things as, is this a growth opportunity? Is it a learning opportunity? How does this inform who I am and who I become? Can you kind of speak on that a little bit?
Yeah. So this is going to seem like a tangent, but I promise it makes sense in a minute. Although it's tied to my career stuff. So I don't know if it's still the hardest year I ever had in my life, but up until then it was, and it stayed that way in top billing for years and years. In 1 year, my career as a teacher ended. My mom got sick. My mom passed away, and my car burned down. Like 50-foot pyro flame coming off the hood of my car, like
Burned
for
down.
real, side of the highway, burned down. Yeah.
I'm glad you
I can
explained
send you. I can send you pictures of the after if it's useful. So going like figuring out the takeaways, right? Remember standing on the side of the road, the side of the Mass Pike, like Route 90, watching my car burn down in the middle of the day. I had just gone out to lunch with my dad. It was a month to the day since my mom's funeral. And I'm just driving home, and I was speeding because I have ADHD. It was like 90 something degrees out, 98, something like that. It was wicked hot for Massachusetts. And all of a sudden I hear, boo, and my hood popped up and fire shot out of either side of it. And I was like, oh no, what? And then the car got like sluggish, and I pulled over, and it like 50-foot pyro flame coming off the hood of my car. Emergency people show up because I didn't call anybody. I'm just panicking. Thankfully, my kids weren't in the car. They were little at the time. And I remember standing on the side of the road, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, it's been one hit after another, after another.
Yeah.
Like, and there were other smaller things that happened too. Like, I got the worst case of poison ivy I've ever had and stuff. But I remember standing on the side of the road and going, like, what's my takeaway? And I decided that I had to stop looking at the awful and start looking at the awesome. And like, that's the wall of awful. I've been using the word back then. But on Facebook, for years and years, I did this every day. Now I do it intermittently because I'm just not on social media as much. But I post today's awesome, and then I say what it is, right? So it's like today's awesome, whatever the best thing about that day is. And I got really good at finding the awesome in the awful, right? Like, what's this terrible thing? I can find the awesome in it. It doesn't mean that it's not awful. It just means that there is something in there somewhere that is sort of doing the yin yang thing, right?
Yeah, very yogic of you.
Yeah.
Is that when the idea of the wall of awful kind of came to you?
That came to me when I was the story in the book is true. And this is, you guys will love this part. So I was in a kitchen of a client. I was coaching their kid, and mom was like, I don't understand why he can't do his homework. And I said to her, well, it's like there's this wall of awful between him and his homework. And my brain split like the ADHD brains do, right? And I was like, continued talking to her, but I was like, that's what did you just say? Like, there's something there. Yeah. I haven't had a lot of moments where that happened, but this time it did. And it took me a while to figure it out, but eventually I figured it out. I went to a Michelle Garcia winter conference. She's like a social worker, who works with like autistic kids and stuff. This was during my guidance counseling training. And I was talking to her about that idea with a woman at the table, and she was like, okay, but how do you get past it? Like, what do you do with that? And I was like, oh, right. I have to figure that part out too. But so that was the origin, was at that table. And that kid's dad, like, they live in town. That kid's dad was a beta reader of the book. And my editor wouldn't let me use his real name, but they were all down. They were like, yeah, totally, put his name in there. And the best part of this story, and this is so unbelievable that people are going to be like, he's lying. That can't possibly be true. But I swear it's true. He is now a bricklayer, that kid.
What?
Yep.
The student?
Yep, that kid is now in his 20s, and he's a bricklayer. That's his job. So the kid who inspired the Wall of Awful grew up to be a bricklayer.
Oh my gosh, that has to be like another book in the future to like have like interview him years later. Like,
what's the equivalent of nominative determination, but in like being inspired by the muse and like being an author even know. Code. Like,
that's the kind of thing that sounds like it's a mythic story that I'm just trying to say that to make it sound better. But it's true. Yeah. That kid grew up to be a bricklayer, at least right now. Who knows what it'll be in 5 or 10 years.
This is like, it's like a Greek tragedy or a Greek comedy or something like that. There's like the ironic contrast of this whole thing.
Yeah. I'm going to have him on my show just to like, prove it.
Oh my God. I will watch that so hard. Yeah.
The guy who built the Wall of Awful before he laid his first brick.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. I love that. Cool. Wow. So he's laying literal bricks. Yep. I guess tell us tell us about, for people that haven't heard this concept,
Yeah.
or haven't seen your videos that are all over, millions of views and stuff that are out there on How to ADHD, 𝗂𝗵𝗲, and you've been interviewed on countless podcasts and stuff about this too.
Yeah.
But for people that may not be familiar, haven't heard this, tell us about the wall of awful and what is it?
Yeah. So the wall of awful is my model for the emotional impact of repeated failure, right? We all have stuff that we've failed at or struggled with. You don't necessarily have to have failed at it, but struggled with so often that it even thinking about doing it is overwhelming. And it's just like, oh, I can't believe I have to do that again, right? That's the wall of awful that you're encountering. And it gets built up by repeated failure, right? So when we fail, we get a failure brick in our wall. And along with the failure brick, you get a disappointment brick because you've disappointed yourself. The tricky part is you also get a disappointment brick for anyone whose opinion of you matters in your life that's going to be somehow affected or know about this failure. Right. So if I fail, I'm not just getting a disappointment brick for me. I'm potentially getting one for my wife or my sensei or like my people that I work with in my business or my kids, my dad, my sisters, like who knows, right? Anybody could kind of factor into this. And along with those disappointment bricks, we get rejection bricks because when we disappoint someone, we feel like they're going to reject us. Doesn't necessarily have to be true. What matters is how we interpret it, not what is real, right? It's the story we're telling ourselves is helping to make this wall. And sometimes people can get ahead of it and say, no, you're fine. Like I can mess up something and my wife can go, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Like this isn't a thing to be stressed and anxious about. And I can go, oh, okay. And maybe put that down. And then that brick doesn't stay if she gets there quick enough. But if I made that mistake 2 hours ago and then she finds out, like that brick's probably sticking around, whether I want it to or not. And so we have to then get past this wall in order to initiate the task that we have a wall of awful for. And that's, people call it laziness. People call it procrastination. People call it a lot of stuff, most of which imply that you're not doing any work and
not trying hard enough.
Right. Well, not even that when you're not engaging with that task, you're not doing any work. That's not my perspective. My perspective is you are doing work. You're doing emotional work. You're navigating and dealing with those emotions in that wall.
That space between starting and activating and kind of conceptualizing, thinking about it, going over those emotions in your head. That is work.
That is work.
Right.
Yeah.
Other
It's just emotional and no one can see it.
Or frozen or laziness, etc. It's that physical inactivity that people interpret as not doing something.
As not doing anything. Yeah. And like the 5 ways to get past the wall, right? 2 don't work. 1 is unhealthy. It works, but it's not that it damages stuff. And then there's 2 that work. The 2 that do not work are staring at it and trying to go around it, right? Staring at it, you're not even engaging with whatever this task is or the wall itself. Trying to go around the wall, it's a metaphor and it's infinitely wide. I know because I made it up. You're never going around this wall.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen, right? The one that works but is damaging is smashing. That's when you either get really anxious or really angry. Anxious is usually turning it inward. You're smashing inwardly. Angry is usually I'm mad at somebody else. So I'm smashing outwardly. And I use those really energetic emotions to crash through the mostly sedentary emotions that make up the wall, right?
Right.
Those 3 things are fight, flight, and freeze. That's all it is.
Right.
So it's totally the body's stress response.
Your nervous system stress response. Yeah.
Right. The 2 that get us past it are climbing it, just dealing with those emotions, right? Like processing, thinking about stuff, sitting there while it happens. Lots of people climb the wall of awful and don't even know they're doing it. And I can go deeper on that. Or putting a door in it, which is changing our emotional state, right? I listen to music. I work with a friend. I go do my thing in a coffee shop, and that increases the dopamine. We get into that in-cup stuff, and we can
temptation
move
bundling
through there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's all emotional work, and we just need to know that we're doing it.
Yeah. Overcoming those emotional barriers, climbing over that wall. Maybe people, I'm just wondering, do people misperceive this in terms of like, this is a hard boundary? Like, I can't do this because I have ADHD.
Sure.
Like what would you say to someone like that who's like, I can't do this thing. And they kind of are in shutdown or freeze mode and don't know where those handholds are.
It depends on what what we're doing as to what I'm going to tell them, right? Like, because sometimes I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, if you tell me you can't do something, then you can't, because you're not going to do it, right? So if I'm your coach or your friend, I'm probably going to argue with you and try to help you get past it. But sometimes I'm just like, yeah, that's where you are right now, and right now you can't get past it, but tomorrow is a different day, right? Like, I've had those conversations with my kids, right? Yeah, I agree with you. Right now you can't get past this, but later tonight or tomorrow, we'll try again. And if I'm trying to help someone get past it, then it's all right, cool. What strategies do you have? What strategies do you need? I'm a firm believer, right? This sort of circles over to laziness, which is a word I don't like. But my lens on laziness is it's just learned helplessness built by a lack of skills or resources. So skills and resources are how we solve all the problems that we face. So if someone is struggling to get past their wall or to do the thing, skills and resources, right? What skills do you need? What resources do you need? And I define those things pretty broadly, right? I don't just mean like, are you skilled at vacuuming your house or mowing your lawn? Like, do you have the emotional regulation skills that you need? Do you have the planning and prioritizing skills that you need to break this task down into smaller, more manageable chunks so that you can do it successfully? Yeah. And resources are the same way, right? Do you have a lawnmower to mow the lawn with? But also, do you have the dopamine that you need to activate? Like, that's a resource, right? So if maybe I would be better off trying to do this in the morning when my ADHD meds are stronger and they haven't worn off yet. I don't know.
Right, energy.
Or do we need to go and exercise and that'll up the dopamine? Or do you just need to go to bed and like wake up tomorrow after a good night's sleep so that you can be more successful? Yesterday, I was a mess. I got woken up like 4 times the night before last. I got woken up by an owl, by an alarm, by my wife, and I think I had to go to the bathroom too. But like, yeah, I was a mess yesterday. I just hadn't slept. Tonight I slept all the way through, so I'm a lot better, right? Even those things, those are all resources. So that lens helps you figure out what's up. And sometimes you just got to do it tired or do it scared or do it sad. Like, sometimes too bad, you still have to do it. But other times it can wait until tomorrow, or it can wait a half an hour so you can eat lunch or something.
Yeah. Kind of having that self-compassion with yourself of when is the right time for you, not like when everyone else thinks it is perhaps, but it's kind of like, when is the more optimal moment to do this, when our energy and focus are aligning, and like having that compassion and self-awareness enough to be like, I did have a long night, or I am sick right now, or I do have something that's hard emotionally going on with like a friend or a partner, and that's impacting my ability to show up right now.
Yeah.
And being like, okay with being like, okay, well, do I have the resources and capacity to push through this? Or can I give myself a little bit of compassion and grace and say, okay, like we'll intentionally put this up. And I think that's different than procrastinating, because you're intentionally being like, okay, I'm doing this later at this time, not just being like, I'm avoiding it.
Yeah. There's also an opportunity here described by Brendan there as well, of like an opportunity for radical acceptance using the lever, or the lever for our British friends, the lever of curiosity, right? Because you said something that triggered a memory of mine. We had this professor, he's no longer with us, 𝗲𝗲, who's Bulgarian. He was a directing professor in undergrad, and he was teaching the junior directors and graduate level set designers in this like special semester long class where we collaborated. And we were all given a play that we had to design like a show for, but never actually do the show. And I think it was 𝗵𝗲𝗧. And I'll affect his accent, but he talked about reading the play to get to know the play. And he said, I don't want you to read this at home for homework and come home tomorrow with the whole play design. He says, I want you to spend weeks reading when you're tired. Read when you have fight with your spouse. Read when you're hungry. Read when you are just finishing at the gym. Read when you are in the pool, when in full surrounded by water. Read when you are hot. Read when you are cold. And he gave this like soapbox of like, read the play in every context that you can, because all of these different environments will teach you about yourself and about the story and the characters within it. And I heard a bit of that in what you said, that like, kind of like the other side of the coin, the flip side, like there's a radical acceptance-based thing here too. You might have to do the thing tired. You might have to do the thing angry. You might have to do the thing just like a mess, like in messy town, sort of like
start
in
messy.
Pieces. Start in pieces and not linear and circular. And there's I love reminding our audience that there is a version of radical acceptance that's buoyed by curiosity, right? Like that's more yogic approach of like, hey, I wonder what it's going to be like to organize my office while I'm mad. And also, like, I wonder what you like. Yeah.
And having that lens is helpful too, right? Because especially people with ADHD, we have a tendency to assume things like how hard something will be or how long it will take us to do it based on the best possible scenario that we've ever had.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So you're like, oh yeah, I can get to the mall in a half an hour. It's like, yeah, no, you did that once because you hit every green light on the way to the mall and there was no traffic. But in reality, the mall is 45 minutes away and you're not getting there in a half an hour. But we often have that. Some of it is like this very strong desire people with ADHD have to like be successful and not struggle and pretend that we don't have ADHD. So when we can, we try to lean into like, I'll just do that in 5 minutes or whatever, instead of going, well, I have ADHD, so it's entirely possible that this 5-minute task will take me 20 minutes. And then we try to do it in 5 and we get stressed out because it's going to take 7 and now we've lost 2 minutes. But if we had built in 10, we would have 3 minutes of wiggle room and we would be feeling light on our feet because we didn't overbook ourselves.
Yeah, this can also be like the 50-50 version where like I last week I prepared a meal for a friend who recently had a hospital visit 6 weeks ago and people have been taking care of him. I baked in time to buy the groceries, to prep. I chopped up everything. I put it in glass jars. I was so proud of myself, Brendan. I was like, this is an ADHD fucking, I'm on fire.
That's awesome.
And I still had the thought, I've made this risotto before, so it should only take me 45 minutes. Cut to 2.5 hours in their kitchen. You know what I mean? Because I had probably set like too many dishes like that plus scallops plus asparagus. But like I still adult ADHD'd out. And my bestie's wife, who's also a bestie of mine, said to him after we left, that meal was delicious. My God. I didn't get a lot of time with Steven, though. and the point was like to visit with my friends.
Yeah. And that's important too, right? Because like you're talking that and I can hear you thinking like, I just didn't budget my time right and that kind of stuff. And I think the mistake that you made was that you knew how long it took you to make risotto as an act of making risotto. But what you did was made risotto as an act of love. And that expanded the time because part of that process was you being more thoughtful and putting more care in. I'm sure that's what slowed you down.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that.
And being surrounded by your social circle at that moment too, right? Like making it alone in your kitchen is different than like talking and sharing and being with
and
other
being
people.
in a different kitchen.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Just a different environment is going to slow you down. Yeah.
Yeah. My partner was like, you weren't in your kitchen.
Right. We assume just because we've done something before in one environment or one context, it'll be the same in different environments in other contexts. And that's another mistake.
And when it's not, we get mad at ourselves and we start putting bricks in our wall.
Yeah. I do love, though, I wouldn't have added that act of love thing. That's brilliant. I think that's very romantic and poetic and true. I had not considered that's going to go in my my forever book, that the context shifted. It's not me making food for myself after work. It's me performing an act of love. Like there's supposed to be extra care in this, and that extra care adds time. It adds extra attention, extra focus, extra stakes. Yeah.
Well, Stephen, do you have another segue question?
Of course. Speaking of, so we want to shift into the anxiety engine. And so the neuroscience chapter in your book frames neurodivergence as essentially a different power ratio between the amygdala and prefrontal cortex. I want you to expand on that a little bit, knowing that you have two ADHDers who are intimately and forever familiar with the anxiety and even depressive cycles that are like either tacked on to, proxy to, or actually co-occurring with adults with ADHD.
Yeah. So one thing I just want to expand on a little bit. Yeah. This is just how the brain works. This is not like, yes, this is a neurodiversity thing, but it's also not a neurodiversity thing. Like people who are neurotypical still get hijacked by their amygdala, still have anxiety undermine their performance, right? It just happens more with people who are neurodiverse for all sorts of reasons, right? Some of it is Some of it is like brain chemicals. Some of it is brain development. Some of it is we just fail so much more that we've got trauma built in there that other neurotypical people don't have. There's lots of reasons why. But I don't want to make this sound like it's purely a neurodiversity thing or an ADHD thing. It's a human thing.
Totally.
It's just louder for people who are neurodiverse.
Yeah.
So my approach to this, and this is going to go back to that, like I put things pretty simply. I'm not going to go into super crazy brain science because we'll lose people. My perspective on it is that we process information on two tiers. We process it cognitively and we process it emotionally. And that emotional tier can go into like an emergency safety seeking level if things get bad enough, right? Then we're in that stress response that we've already talked about.
Yeah.
And in the middle, we're processing kind of cognitively and kind of emotionally, and it's a little bit of both. And that's probably most of the time. So if it's cognitive, we're coming at things from an analytical perspective, and we have our full executive functions to power, and we're able to make good decisions and maybe not be totally right all the time, but we're going to estimate things reasonably well and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's our rational brain.
Yeah. As things get more stressful, or we increase in our responsibilities or duties or just what we're doing, or time pressure pops in or whatever, I have to go to the bathroom and that's derailing me a little bit. Whatever those things are, right? Even just sensory experiences, we get a little more emotional, a little more emotional, a little more emotional. As that emotional processing increases, we run the risk of becoming more impulsive, becoming more defensive, becoming more self-centered, because I'm getting more and more anxious, which means I'm feeling more and more under threat, which means I'm more and more likely to try to keep myself safe. So now we're in the land of self-defensiveness and self-centeredness and all that kind of stuff. Having that lens, and I'm not going to pretend I'm perfect with it, but I am able to shift into that perspective when I'm talking to people or when I'm dealing with myself more often than most people, I think, because I don't think most people think this way. And that allows me to understand why things are going in the direction they're going in, right? Like, okay, this isn't working because this person is coming from an emotional place. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we're not going to solve this problem from an emotional place, right? Emotional processing identifies the problems, but it doesn't solve the problems usually. If it does solve the problem, it's through fight, flight, or freeze, right? That's not always the best way to go. Cognitive processing is typically what we want to solve the problem. Yeah. And one of the traps I see people fall into is they're trying to help someone out with their problem. The person being helped is processing emotionally. The person helping is processing cognitively. Mm-hmm. And they're like, just do this.
Just calm down.
Yeah,
just
or whatever.
Relax.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just do your homework. Just talk to your boss. Just whatever. And the emotional processor can't just do that because they're processing emotionally. And the cognitive processor is solving the wrong problem. Yeah. Because in this moment, the problem is not that my boss is angry with me, right? The problem is that I'm upset that my boss is angry with me. Yeah. So if someone's talking to me, they need to help me regulate and balance my emotions out so that I can shift into cognitive processing and then solve the problem of my boss is mad at me.
What's an effective way in that moment to talk to someone who's in that emotionally distraught space?
Validating emotions and reflecting stuff back, right? Like, this sounds really frustrating. You sound upset. That sounds really annoying. I can see why that would be scary. Are you feeling concerned that your job is getting tenuous, right? But we often don't want to say that stuff because it seems scary, right? Like, if they're not already thinking they're going to lose their job, if I say that out loud, am I going to make everything worse?
No, wait, but I call it the Dr. Becky, who's been on We Can Do Hard Things a bunch. She like you, has worked with teens, young adults, et cetera. And that's for her. You
get much better at communicating with you work with teens. Yeah.
Yeah. Like cornerstone #1, page 1 advice is affirm their reality first, then work from there. You have to try to do that.
And you have to know that when you affirm their reality, it's going to get worse. Yeah, if I say you seem just deal with it, right? Like if I say to someone, you seem really angry, they're going to go, yeah, I'm angry. And they're going to get more angry, or at least they're going to display more anger. Even if they don't actually get more angry, they'll display it at the honest level that it's at, which to me makes it look like they're more angry now, even though they're not, because they were keeping some of it in check maybe. But what happens is it goes up and then it comes down, right? So if they're angry at a 6, but they're displaying it at a 4, and I say, you seem angry, and then they show it to me at a 6, that 6 is going to go down to a 5, right? So it's going to look like it went from a 4 to a 6 and then down to a 5.
Yeah, understanding that
Or it
process
might go down to a
helps you
3,
to
right?
anticipate what's happening and be more not reactive to it.
Yeah, 'cause I have to know that these emotions are going to get worse before they get better. And that's so many things. I often use the metaphor of cleaning a room when I talk to people about, and basically any kind of problem, right? When you clean a room, everything gets worse before it gets better, right? Like all of a sudden there's piles in different places. And now that the mess of that room is in another room too. And like everything just gets worse. But then you work through that and it gets better. And that's how a lot of problems work. It's the stuff gets worse, but the process eventually makes it better. You just got to ride that out.
Yeah, when people are in their
go on, Brent, go on, Aaron.
No, I'm just saying when people are in that when the helper or the fixer, let's say the person is trying to help or fix the problem, when they're in that mindset of I'm rational, I can see this, I can see exactly what the person's supposed to do next, right? And then they offer those suggestions to the person. I think it sometimes lands like an invalidation.
Yep.
Right? Like you're not even hearing me. How I'm angry, I'm upset, and now you're just telling me, well, just do this thing. Like
I'll go you one better. Let me next level that, right? You're going to be like, oh, I've done this. So someone's upset, right? And it doesn't matter what upset. It doesn't angry, sad, depressed, doesn't matter, right? In fact, let's start with depressed. I'm just really bummed and sad. I'm not aggressively angry yet. I'm bummed and sad and everything is bad and I don't like it. And someone comes over and is like, oh, what's going on? And I tell them what's up. And then they're like, oh, well, just do this. And they're like, but I'm bummed and sad. And they're like, but just do this, right? And they're not really saying I'm bummed and sad. They're saying, but my girlfriend broke up with me, right? Yeah. But really what they're saying is, but I'm bummed and sad, right? Like, but this is making me sad. And I'm like, well, just go find another girlfriend. Like, we go to the strip club and see boobs or whatever, right? Like, just that'll make you feel better. And whatever the classic man thing is that people say. And like, I'm just not that guy.
The way you delivered that told us you're not that guy. So you're safe.
But what happens is that person who is like, but I'm bummed and sad, but I'm bummed and sad, but I'm bummed and sad, in whatever other words they're using for that are probably describing the problem, eventually is like, but I'm bummed and sad. Right. And it's like, oh, you seem angry now. Right.
Yeah. I am
because they're not being heard and not being validated. Now they're mad because they're not being heard. So the sadness is getting papered over with anger. And eventually the person who's trying to help is like, I'm just trying to help you. Right. So we get mad at them for getting mad. And then all of a sudden they calm down, and they calm down because we got mad back at them, which validated their anger. We didn't say, oh, you seem angry. We just displayed our own anger. And they were like, oh, now I see my feelings reflected in your behavior. And now I start to calm down. Then the person who was helping, who just got mad, is like, no, now I'm mad. You can't just calm down. What do you mean and now the other person escalates back up and gets mad again. And we're off to the races, and we're both getting mad at each other back and forth.
I hope people are listening clearly, because Brendan just like effortfully is my new thing this year, because nothing is effortless. Effortfully made that sound so elegant. And that is a cycle of rhetorical and emotional violence that I will raise both my hands, say I have been in multiple times.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Yeah, it's a trap.
And that recursive feedback loop, right? That recursive loop is one that not only are we all familiar with, I would say the worst or the most painful, if we can qualify it, scenario is the one in which you know it's coming, right? So like I've also been in the moment where I go, ooh, I'm bummed and sad. I'm in the car with a person who often likes to lead with, but here are all the happy things that are going on. Ergo, like diminishing or dismissing the relevant present bummed and sad. And I know who this person is. I love them. They're going to try and positively spin this. And right now I just want to be bummed and sad, but I can't stop the train from coming. I'm bummed and sad. And they go, but let's just think about all the bright and sunny things. And I'm like, I just want to be bummed and sad. And then they're like, well, I'm just trying to help. And we're back in that anger thing.
Because you're scaring them.
Yeah.
Right? your bummed and sadness is reminding them of their own vulnerability.
Totally.
Yeah.
That they are
100%.
not comfortable with if they're that level of toxically positive.
It's an inability. It's an inaccessibility to embracing the discomfort. Like, I don't want to say inability, but it's a person's inaccessibility to embracing someone else's discomfort. And then we get mad and hurt about that. And what's profound to me that I haven't added when discussing this before is that point that had us all stop and take a moment. When we calm down when they get angry, I forget to add that layer in that recursive loop. But it's like, suddenly watch person A, they calm down when the other person gets angry. I've defined this in my own head as like dragging the other person to hell with you, right? Like dragging to hell, right? Which is like I'm in hell. You haven't seen me for where I'm at and validated me. Therefore, I'm going to project my emotion and my experience onto you. I'm going to drag you to hell. And that moment is a profound one in which person A actually calms down because somebody else is now in the shit pool with them.
And you can validate them to hell with you instead of fighting with them. Like this is a little paradoxical. It's kind of an inversion of what I was talking about earlier. And I don't know that it's fair to put the person who is bummed and sad in this position, but sometimes this is what you have to do. Because you're saying, I know this is going to happen, right? You're like, I'm going to have it. It's going to be like this. If that person is like, but sunshine and roses, right? You can say to them, hey, you know what? I agree. Sunshine and roses. Let me validate your happiness. And you know what sucks is that both of those things can be true. That can be a beautiful sunset, and I can see the joy in it. And still, I feel really bad about the fact that this person passed away or this person left me or my job is over or whatever. And I wish I could appreciate it at the level that you can appreciate it at, but I don't have that right now. And what that's going to do is, in the same way that validating your bummed and sad will help you move out of bummed and sad into a more balanced spot, validating their over intense joy will help bring them down to a more balanced spot so they can maybe hear the bummed and sad stuff in a safer way. Their stuff is just as much of a defense mechanism as yours.
Yes, I have felt this way a long time, and it's important. Yeah, it's so important to remember that. Again, that to me speaks to the radical acceptance narrative that Aaron and I are always going on about. Like, it is up to me to radically accept that I'm bummed and sad right now, but there will be another side to this wall. I'm allowed to feel this, but there will be another side. And then it is just as important for the other person, the listener, to say, hey, sometimes sunsets are still sad, even though beautiful, because that's where I'm at right now, or that's where my partner is at, or that's where my friend is at. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not a dualistic this or that. I think that's what we're coming to, is like, we can have an and both. And in most of the time, life is that. It is not separate. It's a part of the experience. And if we can understand, we're not saving the person from the hardship and the thing that they're going through in the moment. And it isn't helpful to try to just offer the advice and get them to move on quickly, because that's that savior complex, that fixer kind of thing. It's actually affirming to be there with, to allow the space, to support that person and let them talk it through and talk it out. Because actually, like, cognitively and, psychology kind of proves this out in studies and stuff too, right? It's like, if you can speak out the thing and get it out and you're not suppressing it, not holding it in, well, that is one technique that helps shift the brain from the emotionally laden place, right? This like limbic place, to more of that prefrontal cortex and rational, like, solution focused spot. So, but if you try to move them into that too quickly, then it's like, they're not ready. So you have to give them that space and be there with them, and then speak it out. Okay. Like,
that's why it's powerful to name our emotions, right?
Yes.
When we name our emotions, we get some control over them.
Yes.
And the act of naming your emotions is activating the prefrontal cortex.
Right.
Which means we're taking power away from the limbic system and the amygdala and moving it into the prefrontal cortex that is better at solving problems. And it doesn't mean that we get there right away, but it starts the process.
This is a technique. One of the reasons why I was so moved by the 2 sessions of a method acting course that I took under Tonti and Aaron. I'm naming him because he's been around for 40 years and he's one of the leaders in this acting system, this technique. And friends of mine have been with him for years at this point. And one of the activities is called speaking out. And I used to call this class, I was like, this class is CBT adjacent, you guys. This is cognitive behavioral therapy, like in it, but within a vehicle of becoming an actor. And it makes sense when you boil it down to its essence. To be a fantastic actor, you are trying to meet a character invented by an author as close as you can to realness. So how do you do that? You have to gain as much as you can in total control over your own emotional system. If you're going to be the most elite actor on that stage, you are the person who has the most control over their emotional expression and their life experience up to that point to affect realness in this character who's technically not you, right? One of the processes that you'll see in acting, like training, like when people are getting up on stage and doing their scenes, speaking out. And this is a moment in which the emotions are taking over their ability to do the practice, to do the rehearse the scene, be the character, etc. The character is angry. Their real emotional anger is taking over and driving their car, the vehicle. And you'll see an actor go, I'm really mad right now. I'm really mad because you fucked up that line and we've been practicing for 3 weeks and I can't stand it. But when they do that, it's arresting to people in the room if you're not used to this. But they're taking control of the emotion. They're saying like the scene is more important than this emotion that's trying to drive the car right now. So I'm going to call out, or I'm really nervous right now because I can't remember the next line. And I'm starting to get mad because I can't remember the next line. And then you'll note that the guys who are seasoned, the people who've been working with Tony for years, very quickly the line will come back. Very quickly the action will come back. Very, very quickly they'll be like right back in the scene. And when you watch it like kind of working, it's this effortless dance, effortful dance, but it's very graceful actually.
And what we're talking about right now is two pieces of overcoming the wall of awful, right? We're talking about smashing and we're talking about climbing. Smashing is anger. Like anger can be used to climb, but like it's more smashing. And specifically we're talking about active climbing techniques because there's active climbing techniques and there's passive climbing techniques. Anybody who has been following me for a while just went, what? Yeah, there's plenty of stuff in this book you never heard before. Never talked about this before. Active climbing techniques is when I'm trying to actively get a hold of my emotions, right? I'm trying to wrangle them and figure them out and manage them and bring up the ones I need and move down the ones I don't need. Passive is when you do that through meditation, through mind wandering mode, the default mode network, that kind of stuff. But we have to guard against rumination when we do the mind wandering mode and the default mode network. And that, like, that's what we're playing with here, right? All of this stuff is directly connected to the wall of awful and how to get past it. Because it's all emotions. And that's the skill of an actor to be able to draw up whatever emotion they need, even if they need a little bit of time to get out of it, once they bring it up, is a great way to get past a wall of awful, right? Because if I can draw up my motivation or my excitement or my engagement, yay, right? Now, hopefully I can use that to do the thing that I need to do.
Yeah, it doesn't always work. When it does, it's really powerful to watch. Like when because it made a proof of concept, and it's very cognitive therapy based. It's very like, as you said, I honestly couldn't have said it better. It's an active climbing of the wall, very, very wrangling of an emotion and moving forward with it. But we can use this in regular life, right? Civilian life.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of, I think what you're talking about with these different techniques and these different ways of climbing the wall, there is no one way to do this. And just because someone else says, well, this way works for me, it may not work for you. But we all have to try different ways for us and test this stuff out. And some of them are going to be more active and some of them will be more passive, or we'll realize that they're starting to work even though we weren't even trying, right? Like some of the best therapies happen, right? Like EMDR, right? She came up with that technique walking in a park, right? Like just moving her eyes back and forth, looking at trees and things and thinking about that trauma. And then was like, whoa, this eye movement stuff. This is like, this is amazing. Yeah. So like sometimes we land upon stuff by accident. And even like with you're talking about, like, I was in the kitchen, I was working with this family and the mom was like, why can't my kid just get their homework done? What is wrong? And you're like, well, it's this wall. And all of a sudden, boom, aha, that became this thing. And you weren't probably pressing for that thing. It came to you. It was intuitive.
Yeah. And some of it was like, I had experienced that, so I knew what it was. I just never had to describe it before.
Didn't put words to it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, famously, Nikola Tesla and his current was created while on the beach with a poet friend of his. So a friend was like spouting poetry at him, and something just went off, and he drew the alternating current, right, or direct current. I think it's DC in the sand, right? Yeah, that mind wandering. I didn't know that about the MDR, and that's really cool. That tracks. We've described the wall of awful, how to approach the wall of awful, positive strategies, negative strategies, unhealthy ones, healthy ones. I would like, before we go, to talk about a subject that's very hot right now. It's so hot, it's burning, you might say. Burnout. I feel like burnout, before that languishing, is an area in which a lot of what we're discussing sometimes feels like it's absolutely failing us, and we have no more reserves. We have nothing in a tank. Our tools are all empty. We're at our lowest, our most depleted. Talk about your experience with burnout. What does the word mean to you? How are you implementing education about it in your own practice?
So I've been through pretty severe burnout. This is going to be like another hard story. Remember when I was like, that was the hardest year I'd ever been through but I'm not sure it still is. Here's the other one. So you guys know most of this story already, I think, but listeners don't, unless they've listened to my podcast, in which case they probably do. So both of my sons have obsessive compulsive disorder. One of them has really severe obsessive compulsive disorder. So severe that it basically shut our family down for like a year. He ended up at McLean Hospital for months, an inpatient, being treated for like OCD that was overwhelming. He comes home. That was really hard, right? I'm kind of the point person because my skill set, and my wife doesn't work from home, but I work from home. So like basically COVID hits. I homeschool my kids when they're in 6th grade. They go back to school in 7th grade. We had already figured out the OCD stuff was happening during COVID. It gets worse during 7th grade with masks and all that tension and anxiety about what's going on being back in school.
Oh my God, right,
it gets
of course.
Worse and worse. And then summer before 8th grade, he's inpatient and is home by like October of 8th grade. He is an identical twin. So his identical twin, who also has OCD but not that bad, is now sidelined. And I'm not really spending as much time with him as I would like because my OCD severe son is taken up all the time. My wife steps in and helps, but also can't do everything. So when Nate's the one who has severe OCD. When Nate was in the hospital, Gavin and I hung out and did a lot of stuff that summer. And then Gavin goes to school. Nate comes home. Gavin doesn't know how Nate's going to be when he gets home. Turns out Nate's actually okay and doing better. So his identical twin now gets to go, oh, you know all that trauma we went through for like the last year and a half? Now I get to have my trauma response that I've been white knuckling it through and holding on to for however long. So then Gavin starts to struggle. Not as bad as Nate, but still pretty bad. At the same time, my dad is having a ton of health problems. So I'm like randomly having to go and take him to the doctors and that kind of stuff. There's no predictability. So I can't really take on new clients because I don't know when I'm going to suddenly have to go to the doctors or whatever with my dad. It's rough.
Sounds pretty complicated, Brendan.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep a business going and all that stuff. Yeah, it was not great. Eventually everybody gets better, right? And I start putting myself back together. And I use Maslow's hierarchy of needs to do it. I was like, I'm just going to start with physiological needs and safety needs, and like a lot of walking in the woods, a lot of paying attention to what I ate and connecting with my wife and friends and that kind of stuff. So I'm but I'm in burnout. And my definition of burnout became, to me, and like people can argue with me, but my lens is that burnout is what happens when you've been living in a state of anxiety for so long that you can no longer burn anxiety for fuel. So like that, because that's a lot of how we do stuff, right? And now that's why you don't want to keep smashing all the time, because smashing is an anxiety response, right? So if all you do is smash, you're going to burn out. You just are. You got to learn how to climb the wall or put a door in it so that you don't burn out. Because like you'll just become numb to the anxiety and it won't make you want to do things anymore. And that happened to me. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And then one day my wife was like, we need more money. You got to run the parenting groups because we need more money. We've been dipping into savings too much for the last several months. And I was like, okay. And then I ran the parent groups, but it wasn't from a place of anxiety. It was from a place of, I have to do right by my wife and I have to do right by my family. And I was like, if I can't run away from anxiety, I can move towards my values. So I wrote a book to help get me out of out of burnout, which sounds paradoxical. Like that makes no sense. Now, I had help, right? 𝐁𝐫𝐞𝐧𝐝 is my co-writer. 𝐁𝐫𝐞𝐧𝐝𝐚𝐧 would not be the book it is without her, wouldn't be written without her. Like I needed that help. But the book was something to move towards and something to see progress on and something to see success with in small ways and in big ways. And all of that helped get me out of burnout on top of paying attention to my health and those sorts of things. So burnout is a piece of this book. It's not a huge component in the book. It comes up a fair amount. It doesn't have its own chapter. Anxiety has its own chapter. Burnout doesn't. But burnout is sort of sprinkled throughout there. And we do talk about smashing leads to burnout. Like I think that's the subtitle for that section even, is smashing leads to burnout. Because it does.
Yeah, we gave a
thank you for sharing that.
First of all, I wrote some stuff for Aaron. Thank you for sharing. Although there were some bangers in there. I will not soon forget. If I can't run away from my anxiety, I can run towards my values. The lecture that Aaron and I gave, the panel lecture that we gave at the last ADHD conference, was on toxic productivity, languishing, burnout, and we gave it in a sort of linearity kind of fashion, like one leads to the other. And I feel like you've given a missing piece that I didn't even realize was missing, which is that it's a metaphor. It's a powerfully visual metaphor, but burning anxiety for fuel is, I don't even know that it's just anxiety, for the record. Like in a state of languishing, I'm burning anxiety, I'm burning frustration, I'm burning like dysthymia, mild depression. I'm like burning
anxiety.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair. Yeah. It's like dopamine. It still pumps some dopamine, but it's this like toxic dopamine that eventually leads to
cortisol.
The full quote on that. It's actually on a t-shirt. My friend Aurora Remember made a t-shirt of it. My full quote there is, anxiety is the only thing we can burn for fuel and wind up with more of it when we're done.
Yeah. Yeah. Something really dark about that. Yeah. That's and we know too much. We know too much about cortisol and the way that it lasts in the body. And the Daisy, I think people don't appreciate how important the circadian rhythm is, the Gregorian calendar is, and how long cortisol stays in your body, and the combination of those three things. Because like we have divided our days specific to like these societies and economic systems that are built in a specific way, and we don't pay enough homage or reverence to the fact that this anxiety hormone and these neurotransmitters are existing in your brain and your body for longer than a calendar day, than 8 hours or 9 hours, right? And we daisy chain this experience, and it just drags on until crash, until burnout. Yeah. Fun.
Wow. Yeah, the numbing, that experience of this isn't working anymore. Like, because a lot of ADHDers that's their go-to. That's their way of getting things done. Is like, okay, I force it. I wait till there's urgency. I wait till that anxiety spike happens, and then I'm off to the races. But now, I'll hear this from my clients. They'll describe it. They'll be like, something isn't working. Like the stuff I used to do, I'd wait to the last minute, but somehow I'd get that presentation done. Or I'd stay up a little bit later into the night, and then I get it done. And now they're like, but now it's not working. Now that same thing, I just get to that same place, and now I'm like, I can't go forward. I can't do it. Like I don't have anything left. There's nothing here. It's not
because you haven't been going forward, right? Like those folks, right? If you're in burnout, the problem is you haven't been going towards anything. You've been going away from stuff.
Exactly.
And now you're like, I don't know. I'm not afraid of that anymore. So I don't know how to activate. It's like, because it's not about being afraid and running away. Now you have to figure out, what do you want to move towards? Right. And that's hard. You can see it sort of culturally, right? Where
totally
a lot of people as sort of the economy gets worse, right? A lot of people are like, I just quit my corporate job and I'm chasing this passion dream thing. Like now I make cookies or whatever. And because your corporate gig was nothing but you running away from stress and anxiety, right? You were just stressed and anxious. And in order to feel not stressed and anxious, you had to go file that quarterly report or whatever. And then you wouldn't have that stress and anxiety of the quarterly report anymore. So you would feel better, and you couldn't do it anymore. But cookies were really interesting still for you. And you turned that passion into a side business or an actual business. And some of those people succeed, and some of those people find out that making cookies is also has anxiety in it. And there's parts of that gig that suck. And if you haven't figured out what to do with that, you're going to end up not liking that either, right? If you're still only motivated by anxiety.
Yeah. Sometimes there's a shift.
Yeah. This is also where an
Steve.
education that Aaron gave me was really important. The difference between eustress and distress, right?
Mhm.
Eustress
Yep.
and distress.
Yep.
Like I have found that you've made a good shift if the stress that you're experiencing, the challenge that you're experiencing is something you're excited to talk about at the end of the day. Like is it something that you're excited to talk to your friends about and continue problem solving? Like, yeah, it was a stressful day, but I feel like I learned something and I'm getting closer to something, right? If it's the baker, right? Or like yeah, I fucked up the salted caramel cookies that I'm working on. But honestly though, I pulled the caramel better than I've ever I made little caramels actually and gave them to my friends. You know, like I learned something about this process. I struggled all day in there in this hot fucking kitchen, but I got closer. That is still a stressful Tuesday, but it was positive post-traumatic growth stress, right? Rather than the more destructive distress that it sounds like the person in that corporation constantly working to meet a deadline gets relief from getting to that deadline, but there's something toxic about that relief. It's sort of like a false, I don't know, I heard
because there's no accomplishment in it, right? I don't feel like I accomplished anything. I just feel like I got relief from something.
You avoided the tiger.
And you're not accomplishing it for you.
No.
Or for something you care about and is connected to your values. You're accomplishing it for some outside purpose, for someone else, for something else. And that can be okay if it's like, if this is for your wife, like for you, your story, right? You know, you took on that parenting group, but it's for your wife, which you care about and which is meaningful. And like, this is a meaningful connection. I'm showing up for my wife.
Yeah. And then it became I'm showing up for all these people who are in this parenting group that won't.
Yes. It's connected to that purpose. And that drives us. Yeah. That's there. That's important for ADHDers.
Absolutely.
But if it's like, this is a meaningless BS job and I'm just doing a report after report and I'm submitting this, and what is it all for? I'm so burnt out. This sucks. It's not connected to anything.
I can't find it. I'm sort of glancing around my desk for something, but I don't see it. Or I just don't see the results, right? Like email is a good example of this for me. Email is so ethereal to me. I do a lot of emails and I don't often feel like they actually go anywhere, right? Because it's a little different now with the book, because it's sort of like I send an email and there's a result and there's a thing that happens after that. But for a long time, it was like people emailing me saying they wanted to work with me and me being like, cool, let's do that. And they have ADHD. So maybe they get back to me immediately and maybe it's a month later and maybe it's not at all. And who knows, right? Or I'm sending emails to invite people on the podcast or go on someone else's podcast. And like, sometimes that happens right away and sometimes it takes a while. So email felt really ethereal for me. And it was really hard to do as a result. Cause I'm like, this doesn't go anywhere, right? I don't really feel accomplished after I send an email. I just bought a clicker, like one of those clicker counter things that they use outside of like a club. I bought one of those and I was like, I'm going to do some email. And every time I did an email, I clicked it. And it made like a noise and it felt concrete for a split second. Yeah. And then at the end, I looked at the click counter and was like, all right, I did 15 of them or whatever. And that gave me some small amount of feeling like I had accomplished something. Whereas before there was nothing. And if you're working in a job where your boss isn't giving you feedback and you turn in the TPS reports and you don't know why, you don't know what it does, you don't know what it means, all that stuff is going to feel ethereal, or ephemeral is probably the better word, just like email did to me.
Yeah. Well, we are coming to the wrap up, and I want to leave you with a quote gift for burnout, because it'll segue us out of burnout. Another quote that I have from Tony from that class. He is quoting Boleslavsky, who is the assistant to Konstantin Stanislavski, who brings us the method, but also the origins of modern acting as we know it today. And his assistant Boleslavsky came with the following quote: "Only when the subject is truly fed up can the real work begin." And I find that it's a very powerful, motivating quote for the ADHDers who struggle with burnout and find themselves in burnout. I think it really marries well with you. Once you discover you can't keep running away from your anxiety, you have to start running towards your values. I feel like those are the yang and yin quotes, right? Only once the subject is truly fed up from running away from their anxiety, they may start doing the real work of running towards their values.
Yeah.
So there we go, combining quotes across time and history. Humanity, folks. We've been trying to solve the puzzle for years. And so we're still going for it. So, Brendan, your book is called Overcoming the Wall of Awful, out this fall from Hachette.
Yeah, it comes out September 1st from Hachette.
Hachette. Thank you.
It'll be everywhere books are sold. It's already, you can already pre-order it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and your local bookstore. If you go to wallofawful.com, it'll bring you to a page where you can order it from wherever. I record the audiobook tomorrow. I start doing that. So the audiobook will be me. And for those of you who have sort of watched the YouTube videos and are like, I know the Wall of Awful, it's like 300 pages of stuff. Like I really expand on it a lot in ways that I haven't previously.
Yeah, we caught a little glimpse of it today on the show. Yeah.
I'm so excited to read it and to check that out and to use it with clients. So it's a very powerful metaphor. Thank you for creating that.
Yeah, we are so honored. And for the record, today is the 9th. So the audiobook is getting recorded tomorrow on the 10th for those listening, weeks from now. And we're going to put a lot of the information that Brendan just gave us in the show notes. But one more time, Brendan, for the people listening, the name of the website, the name of the book, where can we find you?
The book is called Overcoming the Wall of Awful. And the website is wallofawful.com or thewallofawful.com if you want. And brendanmahan.com will point you there too.
And you also, tell them about your podcast or, some other things too.
So the podcast is called ADHD Essentials. It's a little stagnant. When my kids' OCD started, I posted every week for years and years and years. And then my kids' OCD hit and I stopped because something had to give. And I've posted kind of intermittently since. And then I started writing a book and that took up way more time than I would have for a podcast. It will be coming back. I don't know for how long. I kind of feel like I'm shifting over to the Wall of Awful as the brand. Yeah. So there might be a new podcast potentially.
That makes sense.
I don't know. I'm not really sure. The ADHD Essentials is aimed at parents, kind of. There's a lot now. When I go back to it, it'll be aimed at adults, like broadly, not specifically to parenthood. But parenting is leadership. So if you've got any kind of leadership stuff, a lot of the parenting ideas will work, even if you're a CEO of a company.
Amen. Definitely. So go buy the book is what we're saying. Go buy the book, The Wall of Awful, because that's where Brendan Mahan is heading in his career in educating the masses on their ADHD brains. This has been an episode of the Attention Different podcast. My name is Stephen Tonti, and co-hosting today with me was
Aaron Smith. And don't forget to follow and subscribe for more. Follow us on YouTube, subscribe if you haven't already. I know there's a lot of people out there that haven't hit that subscribe button. That really does help us out too. And keep supporting us. We're doing important work here with radical acceptance and neurodiversity advocacy. And again, thank you so much for sharing all your insights and being part of this. Great. Yeah, being part of this community. We love that you're here. And we will see you again, I'm sure, at another International ADHD conference, if not sooner.
Yeah, we'll see you in December. Okay, so you'll be there. Yeah, we will see you in December for sure. The Attention Different podcast is hosted by me, Stephen Tonti.
And me, Aaron Smith.
The Attention Different podcast is produced by David Grabowski, who also wrote the theme music.
Edited by David Grabowski and Ian Lopez.
Visit us at attentiondifferent.com, where you can learn more about our team, discover resources, and much, much more.
We're on Instagram at attention_different.
And you can watch all our episodes like this one, plus tons more free content on youtube.com/@attentiondifferent.